So this first question is using, it's kind of hard to see, but it's a 5-minute chart here, right? So we have a 5-minute chart, and we're looking at the MACD, just a simple analysis of the MACD. Is the MACD above or below the average, or in other words, is the histogram above the 0 line, or is the histogram below the 0 line? And then we want to correlate and match this up with this other screenshot here. So we have a tick chart. So this is going to be typically a faster moving tick chart here, and we're doing the same thing. So we're looking at the MACD. Is the MACD above or below the average line, or in other words, the histogram, is the histogram above or below the 0 line, right? And so when the two, so we want to know when the two are in sync here, when the minute chart is in sync with the tick chart, right? So going back to the minute chart here, so BloodHound's going to be running on the 5-minute chart, and so he wants basically the racing stripes, or the signals, to go away, so we can see the green and the red background here. So he wants those to go away when the MACD on the 5-minute chart is in disagreement with the MACD on the tick chart. So so we're just going to be analyzing both time frames here. So all right, so there's the basics there, and all right, so here's a chart, and let's switch this over to a 5-minute chart. And let's see. All right, let's get BloodHound open. Let's see. All right, so first thing, when you start off with BloodHound, is you want to put assign a file name, for what you're doing, so that way your work gets saved to a file. All right, so there's today's date for the workshop. Okay, and let's start working on the logic tab here. All right, we're going to create a new logic template. So use the new button here, and let's see, what should we call this? All right, something like this, sync in the MACD direction. All right, now, so the chart that BloodHound is running on is the 5-minute chart. So if I switch over to the solvers tab here, that's our default time frame, right? So I now need to add another chart, right? I need to add that tick chart. So there we go. Let's see. This was a 1940 tick chart, I believe. And let's switch the type, the period type over to tick. And let me type that in again. There we go. 1940 tick chart. And let me just take a quick look. 1940 tick chart. There we go. All right, so we have our both time frames here. So the 5-minute is the default time frame, and then we have that faster time frame on here. And so just kind of note that this is a faster time frame. All right, let's see. Well, we'll get into kind of the things to be aware of, when you're using different time frames here. Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. So. All right, so I have my two time frames. Let's see, let's go to the logic board here, and let's see. Let's put the MACD on the chart here, and also note, you'll note here that when I added that tick chart time frame to BloodHound, that it does require the chart to be reloaded so that extra data, that new tick chart, can be loaded. All right, but let's get the MACD on here. All right, so let's see. We're just going to use the default MACD settings. And let's move that up. All right. And you'll notice when I added the MACD onto the chart here, right, that reloaded the chart and took care of, the BloodHound message to reload the chart. All right, so let's pull BloodHound back up. And I'm going to go back over to the logic tab. Now, there's two ways I could do this. So let's go back to the screenshot. So the way this question was written is, so it was written based on the MACD being crossed above or crossed below the average line. but with the MACD, we could use the histogram as well. That's what the histogram is telling us. So, but I will do this the way the question was answered, just in case there is a difference. So I guess I better turn that average line on. Just a moment here. Okay, there we go. So now we've got the average line on there. All right, so I'm going to grab a comparison solver. So the first thing you might notice about the solver menu is now it's broken into two different time frames here, right? Since we're working with multiple time frames. So I'm going to go to the default time frame, right, which is the 5-minute chart that BloodHound is running on. And I'm going to grab a comparison solver. Connect that up. Right, so what are we doing? Well, we're comparing the MACD line to the MACD average line. All right, so let's just give this some kind of a name here. Let's see. All right, so this is basically comparing the MACD to the average. All right, so the first input A, that'll be our MACD line. So let's open up the list of indicators and scroll down. Find that MACD. There we go. And again, I'm just using the default settings for the MACD. And make sure that the MACD plot is selected, which it is already. So we can just click OK. And then down here for input B, again, let's go find the MACD. There we go. All right. And again, don't forget to change your MACD settings if you're using different parameters here. And then we need to select the average plot next. All right, there we go. Simple enough. All right, so there's the MACD, either above or below the average line. So there's that. So now we just need the same thing, but for the tick chart. All right. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little shortcut here. So let's go back over to the Solvers tab. I can select, right, this MACD solver here, and I can make a copy of it. And I can take this copy and move it down onto the tick chart. So now this solver is running on the tick chart. Or in other words, right, this MACD indicator, is running on our tick chart data. All right, so with that, let's go back over to the logic board and then go to our solver nodes. And this time we're going to go into the existing nodes. And again, you'll see there's multiple time frames here. So we need to go into the tick chart time frame. And there's that new solver that I just placed on the tick chart time frame. Let's drop that on there. And there we go. Right, and so we can see that this solver is running on a different time frame, right? It's got the chart time frame noted above it. So, and this one has no notation, so we know it's running on the default time frame. So let's move those back a little bit. Next, we just need an AND node, like so. And there we go. So there is our results of the correlation from the minute chart and the tick chart. Right. Now, yeah, one thing to note, excuse me. So let's kind of talk about how NinjaTrader works with multiple time frames here. Right. So if BloodHound is running on the 5-minute chart, the only time that BloodHound, the only time that BloodHound can look at the tick chart time frame is when a 5-minute bar closes, right? That should make pretty sense. That should be pretty obvious. Make sense there, right? Since BloodHound's running on a 5-minute chart, when a 5-minute bar closes, that is when BloodHound gets to look, or I should say, that's when BloodHound receives data, from the tick chart. Okay. So, the thing to note is that I believe that this 1940 tick chart is going to be slightly faster than a 5-minute chart. Well, especially on the ES. So let's pull up the screenshot here. So let's see, is it in the text? Yeah, there's nothing mentioned in the notes, but the emailed in question, and we can see the chart here that this is on a ES chart. So typically the 5-minute chart is going to be the slower chart than this ES tick chart here. So this tick chart is going to run a little faster here. So one thing to note is that the signals from BloodHound, they're only going to update when a 5-minute bar closes, right? Now, if you're looking for real-time data, then we need to change one of NinjaTrader's settings for BloodHound. So we need to change a NinjaTrader parameter here. So if we close this out, so if we want results in real time here, we need to go into the indicators list and select BloodHound here. And that's what this calculate mode here, right? So this setup section here, let's kind of minimize all this stuff here. So the setup section, these are NinjaTrader settings here. And we have a calculate mode. So if you want to see results in real time coming from that faster chart, right, the faster tick chart, then you would want to set BloodHound to run on price change, right? We don't need it to run on each tick. That's just totally unnecessary, and a waste of CPU processing time. So on price change, would be more appropriate. And so we can do that. Click OK. And now we'll get results in real time here. And let's see here. All right, so the market is actually moving. And let's pull up a tick chart. And I guess I should probably switch over to the ES. So that way the tick chart actually is a faster moving chart. All right, let's select the ES. And all right, so here we go. Here's our tick chart. Let me get the MACD on this one as well. All right, well, shoot, I was kind of hoping that maybe the tick chart, the MACD might be ready to kind of cross over, but no, we're definitely in a bit of a strong uptrend here. But in any case, yeah, just be aware, of which time frame when you're mixing and matching time frames like this. Just kind of be aware of which the faster one, so that way you're kind of aware of, the design nature and limitations of NinjaTrader. So there we go. So bottom line, just to recap this, if you want results from BloodHound, in real time, you need to change the calculate mode here. So otherwise, if we use the standard calculate mode, which is on bar close, then just be aware that BloodHound's only going to update, when the 5-minute bar closes. So, right. And for anybody wondering, you cannot mix and match that calculate mode. NinjaTrader does not allow that calculate mode to be mixed and matched. So, all right, that does it really for this question. That was a pretty simple and straightforward question there.